chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Here this evening for another informative episode. There I am. There I am. By popular demand. You see what has been going on here. Yes, by popular demand, we are now on day 3 of this special series. And the response from each and every one of you, Caymanians, residents alike, even persons that have known residents or no residents that just arrived, are actually being introduced. I'm out and about for a couple hours during the day, and it's amazing. Yeah, great feedback, and even them are appreciating what we're delivering here, but they have saying, it's being overwhelming. They like the clarity, and they want, really, at the end of the day, for my Caymanians and residents, they're asking just for fairness, and most importantly, that's what they're hoping, is transparency. Now, you will notice that over the past 2 days, we've unpacked some of the most talked about clauses in the bill, from transitional matters into clause 35, to pathways to permanent residency. We even spoke about caregiver certificates. And we spoke a little bit about the civil service exemptions as well. Each of these clauses sparked important discussions, and questions came about, and, about balance. Balance between protecting Caymanian opportunities and ensuring fairness for those who have already invested here in our islands, right? And today, we continue that journey. Yeah, because I made you guys a promise. And you all got to thank Danny for this because he insisted that I did it. I heard the call, but I did not realize the feedback would be so overwhelming, how much it's being appreciated. And I thank you. But today we continue on that journey, and we will continue to look closely into the different clauses that deal with, yes, it may sound repetitive, but sometimes we digress and we go off into other topics. So if it's stuff that we have brought back, it's because I haven't feel comfortable. We may have gone down a rabbit hole, and I'm going to bring back some things, and I'm going to put a piece of law on the screen for you today to show you something of the current law, and it should actually have you scratching your heads, because if we're doing immigration reform, excuse me, oh no, who is this Barbara? No, none of that. Bye-bye. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we're talking about, we're going to continue on the journey, and we'll look closely into some of these clauses as even pertains to work permits, to civil servants, term limits, again, residency certificate, the definition of special circumstances. And these may sound technical, but they touch directly to exactly Caymanian livelihoods and family life and future of our workforce. And, you know, as always, my aim and my approach in this very emotive subject, for some, it may be hard. And let me just make it clear. If you catch me mid-statement, and you may have heard me reading a question or a comment being made, or if you are just talking second or third hand, don't repeat it unless you've actually reviewed our episodes. I deliver these shows as non-partisan and as fact-based as any person can. And my aim is to really just break it down as this proposal is saying, and what it means in practice based on interpretation, and where Caymanians should really pay attention. And if you're not understanding something, don't run off. If you haven't actually seen one of the episodes, feel free. Call in 936-8255. But I will never go prejudicial, memeing out one particular nationality. I would never do that. When I'm delivering, I'm only here actually putting in the public's domain what this bill, these recommendations are that are going to be debated on the floor of Parliament. Don't blame me if you don't like some of the examples to put it into context, looks and sounds like. But you would never necessarily hear me using any one particular nationality. That's for you guys to have it in your head. I'm just here to deliver the facts. I can't skew what is in the bill because that's what's in the bill. That's what will be debated. And I will do that in a nonpartisan approach and based on facts and interpretations. So whether you're tuning in as a Caymanian or worried about the upward mobility, whether you're here as a resident navigating immigration pathways, or simply just someone who's invested in the future of our islands, this is the conversation for you. And I want to dive into this day 3 series. But, you know, again, you're invited 936-8255 to either WhatsApp or to call in and join in live on the conversation, keeping it into context of what we're talking about, because we got a lot to unpack this evening. So the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and our participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. Yes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. And again, don't forget to like, share, and follow me so that you don't miss an episode. And I'm hoping that we end at 7, but should we have to continue, you can always find me on YouTube. Look for the at Sabrina Speaks, the number 12. I'm there on YouTube. And also you can continue following me or watching the show. I will continue on the Sabrina Turner Community Activist Facebook page. So you're not scrambling. Oh my God, the conversation is ongoing. I can't find her. All you got to do is follow. I see you. Thank you to all of the new subscribers and followers. We see you and we appreciate you. That way you will not miss an episode for sure. We got what was going on in the month of February. Oh my God. February is, all of these babies were conceived in February. Yes, it's been a heck of a month. But let me just do this because, like I said, we got a jam-packed show today for you. Let's say happy birthday to Iva Hart. I hope that you are my friend, that you are enjoying your birthday. We bigged you up on our page as we did everybody here today. It was so much coming in that, I just did one big blast after Iva, but she was also included in that. And thank you. We appreciate you. And, all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family does as well. But you are a definitely warrior and champion of your own right, Iva. Many, many more birthdays for you. And I'm hoping that you're having a blast. Now, remember, you don't need to use GPS when you come back home, okay? Because I understand you're away. So you don't need no GPS. Yeah, I see you. And look here. Look, old Braca from Spot Bay. Royce. Royce Scott, old cuz. Yes, a legit cousin of mine, Royce Scott. Is also celebrating his birthday today. Yes, from all of the family and friends here, not only direct family, but also here on the Sabrina Speaks. Yeah, show. We want to wish you, watch you. I'm wishing you all the best today on your day, and I'm quite sure you're going to be partying like a rock star as you usually do. That's one thing with Royce. He just has a blast. I just admire his spirit. And he's the best buddy to go out with, definitely. His brother Phil is the same, a real joke. All their Spot Bays, yes. But happy birthday, Royce. I wish you many, many more birthdays as well. And look at here, Mary, happy birthday to you, girl. 60 looks fabulous. If I was looking at that, girl, you are aging like fine wine. Girl, happy birthday, Mary. You don't look like you've aged one bit. And working with you in immigration back in the day, we know what that is like. So just like Sandra, she have a working relationship and a personal relationship with you. Yeah. Happy birthday to you, my love. And it's been a while. We haven't seen. I saw Sunshine the other day, yesterday, actually. And it was just good. Every time I see the old school of what we know as immigration staff, we just laugh, and those bonds and those relationships remain. But today is your day, Mary. Continue to enjoy the day. And girl, you make 60 look fabulous. Happy birthday to you, my love. And last but not least, to keep on my radar is Aisha, another Braca. Happy birthday to you, my love. Boy, it's been a while. I used to work with her immigration too. Well, oh my gosh, it is good to be able to share in this special day with you. To all of you, we're wishing you all a very happy birthday. And we're going to cheers to you guys on your special day. OMG, I can't believe it. Yeah, I see some of you commenting. Yeah, they're February babies. Every one of them is February babies. I wonder what was happening. Must be something in the water. Wonder why. But yeah. I was thinking about that. I'm like, what is going on? It's so much people that we're just sending shout outs to between November and December. Yeah. Good to go. Well, there we go. I'm not going to forget this. I'm going to be quick as I can so we can get into the meat and potatoes today. Yes. The forecast for tonight calls for cloudy skies with 40% chance of late night showers. Temperatures will fall to the near to mid 70s. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Tomorrow's forecast calls for partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 40% chance of morning showers and lingering afternoon showers mainly over the sister islands. Yes, temperatures will rise into the mid to upper 80s with the heat index of near 94. Winds will be east to northeast 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. Now, there's going to be a high tide at 8:32 this evening. Tomorrow, a low tide at 3:16 a.m. and another high tide at 10:15 a.m. Sun will set this evening, not too long from now, at 5:45, and sunrise tomorrow is going to be at 6:45. The outlook calls for a decrease in cloudiness and showers is expected, accompanied by light easterly winds and slight seas over the weekend. As I mentioned earlier, and this surface trough moves west across the Caribbean. So there you have it. You can plan your evening. You can plan your day tomorrow, because I know plenty stuff is going on, parties, you name it. Let's see who is here. Marshall was first to comment. Hey, Shaka Zulu, good evening to you and all. Yeah, it's so good to have you here. Hey, Damien, what's up? There we go. There we go. Oh, this is, I don't know who this is, but we know what we do with these people, eh? We know what we do to them. Yeah. Boy, that is therapeutic. Hey, Connie Bonnie, how are you, my love? It is so good to have you with us. Yes, Iva, you're here. Your special day. Denny, our conversation on immigration is not a substitute for the government engaging in public consultation. Thank you for that. I think, Denny, well said, that if they had engaged anything like this, we wouldn't be doing this. We would actually be putting on the sprinkles and the whipped cream. Ooh, that's going a different direction. Yeah, what I'm saying, we would be putting on the finishing touches, or just pretty much filling in some gaps. That's what we would be doing. But yeah, thank you so much for that. Shaka Zulu, Valentine's is February. You would pick it up. I'm glad you said it. Miss Barbara, good evening. I have been sick. Oh, yeah, I was wondering. You were very quiet. Hope you're feeling better. Yeah, them Valentine's babies. Desiree said Sagittarius rock. Hi, Jasara. How are you, my sweet? Good evening to you as well, Rajan. You did? You saw me in Kirk's. You just telling them where I going. I didn't want certain people to know where I went today. No, it's just fun. Y'all must say hi, for God's sakes, please. I'm not, even though my eyes are all over the place. What I do, now that you say where I was today, I didn't go to bed till Minister 2 this morning. Kudos to my cousin Bianca. She was here putting up the tree. And what she did is that we noticed certain things needed, and she said, you just got to go back to Kirk's and get this and get that. So that's really what I was doing. And then for something I veered off a different way, and I was looking for some other stuff. So yeah, and then I think that I remember everything. And I ended up picking up 1-2 things that I didn't really for, but I still did it. But no, man, you guys need to just let me know when you see me. I'd like to see you guys. Just say hi. Just like how I saw, anybody. I guess because I'm on the CMR platform, that won't end up on Mile Road. I had some business to do at the government administration building today. For the record, that's the first time I've been back to that building since the election that I left on October 31st. And coming out of the building, I ran into a super, super good friend. I called him my boyfriend. He's like my other, really boyfriend. Yeah, really. Yeah. So I'm going to give a big shout out to Paul Key today. When he realized it was me coming out, because I was walking back to my car and I was coming down to Stope, and he was coming up, going into the main building. I literally just outstretched my hands, and he was like, oh my God, it's her, it's her, it's her. And we had that moment right there on government admin building. So you know what, Miss Linda Key, if anybody says that they saw our husband, yeah, it was me. If they didn't recognize it was me, Miss Linda. Yeah, and I send you lots of love too, and I sent him a message to you. So yeah, we got a long overdue hug, and we did it right on the steps of the government admin building for all to see. So yes, it was me and Paul Key. But that was so cool to run into him. Yeah, so brought back a lot of memories, to be honest with you. Yep. So yeah. Connie, you're great. Good. Hi, Miss Dorothy. It's good to see you, because once I get started now, I'm going to look at your comments and feedback and all that sort of stuff. But we're going to get into the meat and potatoes today. You are busy at phone. So, oh yeah, who it was? I'm trying to remember who the heck I was on. So I think I was getting instructions on what to pick up, because I didn't remember. But next time, that's okay. Just say hi. Just say hi. Trust me, between now and maybe next week, if you go back there, just say hi. Yeah. Yep. You better make sure that was not Jim. No, man, it wasn't. Not, yeah, that is side piece. That is side piece. But you know what? This side piece is publicly known. And the good thing is both parties know about me and Paul Key. Yeah. So much is being revealed on Sabrina Speaks, but it was just, hey, if we were all like this, how happy the world would be. We would just do that. You just are normal. It's just life. But big shout out to Miss Linda. Long time no see. And I told him we're going to get one more big embrace before Christmas, which means I got to go to their house. Yeah, I go to the house too. Big and bold like that. Yeah, Connie, you know, like me. Yeah, we do it good. We do it good. Jimbo, it's so good to have you back, my love. It is really good to be back. But yeah, today's episode, we're going to continue to look at immigration in transition into this whole 3 days of what this 2025 bill really means to Caymanians. And for those of you just joining us, we usually just try to break the ice, acknowledge you who make this community. We do these shout outs and all that sort of stuff before we get into it, because we know people are driving and all that sort of stuff, and you want to settle down. Maybe you want to tell your friend Sabrina talking immigration again today, and she's going to really dig her heels into it. But yeah, so it's good to just do all of that before, do some housekeeping, and remember, this weekend is Cayman Thanksgiving. So we want you to go out and support the small business market. And there's still a call for choirs and persons who may want to join into a competition where you have opportunity to win 3 grand prize. Yeah. So who don't need a little extra cash. But yeah, from 4 until 10 on Saturday, Cardinal and Albert Panton Street. Saturday, I'll be out. I won't have in my earbuds. I will do my best to be on the lookout for all of you guys. If you can identify me. I guess when I open my mouth, anybody knows it's me. But yes, this is a special series, guys. And we're continuing on day 3, the Cayman Immigration Transition Bill 2025. And because this episode dives into exactly this evening, the clauses shaping Cayman's workforce in the future, from work permits and civil service term limits to residency certificates. We've also covered some of those caregiver protections, and we'll also go into definition of special circumstances. My aim is to break it down, what each clause actually say in plain language, and pretty much the strengths and what concerns that could be there or you should be aware of, and how these changes could affect jobs, families, and opportunities. It also, I think one section today is going to show you that there's a door that's wide open. There's a door that's wide open that, at the end of the day, status is wide open. And I'm going to show you in law that particular section wasn't even breathed on. But I'm going to bring it to you today. Now, the particular section that I'm talking about is a part of today's continued discussions, because you realize I was going clause 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It just so happened that that was one of the clauses, and I found it, and I was like, hold on, is this being amended? Because if we're doing immigration reform, why isn't this being addressed? Or is it because we getting there? Yes. So again, my approach is nonpartisan, but fact-based and interpretation. And again, this is no cop-out for their powers that be to not do their job It's for them to also do their job. I'm just here doing, you know how much things I could be doing right now, but I enjoy it. And again, you keep me going, okay? So let's get straight into it. Ready? Here we go. We are going to look at Clause 11 that amends Section 33 of the Principal Act, okay? So I'm going to be going from one section of the law. Not everything I'm going to post on the screen, just in case you guys, because there's a lot going on, right? Okay. What this clause says, in this Section 11 amendment of Section 33 of the current law that's in effect now, and bearing in mind, when you hear me talking about clause, for those of you who only listen to part of the story and run with what you think is said, you need to listen. When you hear me say Clause 11, it is what the government is planning to change the law to either include, add a new section, or in some cases to tighten it up. It's not what Sabrina is saying. I'm only delivering what the government is proposing that is going to be debated, and I'm giving the interpretation in layman's terms to show you how you could be impacted. I am not here to cry down any nationality. My duty in this case is to just be fact-based and deliver and explain in layman's terms as best as I can, okay? For those of you who are just not understanding what I'm doing and thinking what I'm saying is what I'm saying and not really what the law. Yes, you would not believe it, but some people are saying that's what I'm doing when I give examples. I can only chuckle for them, but I'm hoping now that that will clarify. And criticism, I take it as constructive criticism. But if you don't understand what we're doing, don't just run off with what you're assuming, because there's nothing that I've said here that I'm reading when you actually hear me read. That is what I say. I didn't make this. It's the government of the day based on advice and recommendation from the civil service arm that they have been given. Remember, this is the immigration reform that the Caymanians have been pleading for and saying this is what we need. This is what the government is presenting as, I guess, a stage of immigration reform, protecting our identity, protecting who we are, tightening up certain things, whether you agree it's good or you disagree it's not. They're saying this is a step in the right direction. I am only here putting it in layman's terms, okay? So Clause 11 of what is being recommended, amending Section 33 of the current law. And for the record, the current immigration law right now that's being amended is the Immigration Transition Act of 2022 revision. This amendment and all of these amendments that I have been referring to over the past 3 days and before is amending the law that's in effect now, and that's the Immigration Transition Act of 2022. And what they're proposing to amend right now, among other things, under Clause 11, to provide that the holder of the right to be Caymanian by entitlement may lose that right where, after reaching the age of 18 years, the person resides outside the islands for a period of 5 years and the person fails to notify Director of WORC. Okay? Now, pretty much what I'm going to do is to just break this down for you for this particular clause, right? People who right now hold the right to be Caymanian by entitlement, for example, through birth or descent, they actually now, with what is being proposed, there was always a lost cause in there, but what is now, they could actually lose that right if after reaching the age of 18 years old, they live outside the Cayman Islands for 5 years or more, and they fail to notify the Director of Work about why they have been absent. So in short, Caymanians by entitlement must keep WORC informed if they live abroad for extended periods or risk losing their status. Okay. Did I snap that? Let's see. 33. Right. So that is what that is saying. What this actually does is that it actually gives accountability of the holder. So this is a strength. It also gives transparency, and it's fair. And also, it reinforces the idea that Caymanian status is linked to genuine residence and not contribution, right? So accountability in the sense where it encourages Caymanians living abroad to maintain ties and communications with our local authorities to say, hey, I still exist. Cayman is still my place of abode. That's where I still call home, but I am living here for A, B, C, D, E, F, G reasons. And it is up then for WORC to decide whether or not that will meet the criteria for you to continue to retain to hold what you have. And what it does where transparency, as I said, it would actually help government track who's actually connected really to the islands, because you would still be deemed Caymanian. Now, some of the concerns that possibly could come, because there's always a balance, there's pros, there's cons, is that Caymanians, by entitlement, could lose their status simply for failing to notify work. And, at the end of the day, once this law comes in effect, it's going to be a requirement. That's what is being proposed. Now, as well, that's more work. That's administrative burden on the civil servants again, because then it requires, on both sides, the enforcement arm, it requires administration of the holder, the applicant now, to file additional paperwork, to proactively file these notifications, which could be overlooked, or in many cases, just totally misunderstood. Now, also, it could have a youth impact, because at age 18, young Caymanians study abroad. If they're in tertiary studies, they're allowed to hold whatever they have with permission, being notified, given immigration, WORC proof that you're actually in school, college, university. And, many a times that could be extended until 21 or until you've finished your tertiary studies, or 24, 21. It's time to be corrected, whichever happens earlier. But once you can prove that you're a full-time student in tertiary studies, there is a time frame given to you that you can continue to have it, but immigration just needs to know. And some may actually look at it as a disadvantage to them already having it, because some of them could lose their Caymanian status for a technicality, not just because they are banned in ties to Cayman, but ish happen. And there's also some transparency gap, because what this bill is saying really doesn't specify how notification can be made. Here we go again. That now is not public knowledge yet, because I'm hoping how that process will be done now will actually be cited in the regulations. Yeah, the action arm, the moving wheel of this whole reform that is not yet public knowledge, right? So whether they're exceptions that say for students, medical treatment, military service, maybe, they're usually exceptions and within reason. But what this actually does now is put it into law, that it tightens it up, it makes it more clear, so that there's no ambiguity, there's no, but I thought this way, I thought it, and it's left up to this one's, how good can I make the case, how better, bad, when at the end of the day, it makes it clear. Now, regulations, how that is worded, will definitely make it crystal clear. But really, what every Caymanian should be concerned about is how easy and accessible the notification process will be once we are aware of what that will be, right? Hoping now that, of course, immigration has an online process facing, and whether or not it will be something in person. Do you have to be physically in the islands at the time of submission of this application or this due diligence? We don't know. Or you know, you could probably use an agent or something. We need to get all of that clarified. And again, we're now flying in the wind because we do not have the regulations that would actually outline how the process could be. Like, for example, whether students who are studying overseas or Caymanians working overseas will even be protected from losing their status. Like, how long is a piece of string when it is there? Right now, is left for speculation because we do not have sight of the regulations. And also, what we should be concerned about as well under this section is whether Caymanians should lose their right without proper public awareness of this requirement. And that's what we're doing here right now. And besides what is now being tabled when they go to Parliament, that's the government go to Parliament on the 10th, that's when you're going to be hearing a lot directly from the powers that be. They had these town hall meetings, but we heard some feedback of how that went. And whatever published guidelines, if you're not a Facebook junkie and want to really look at all of the material that is shared there, even though they were in bite-sized pieces, save for this platform, in layman's terms, participation, you're left in the wind waiting for the 10th. And, again, there could be exemptions for students as well. Medical absence for overseas service, for training. So these are all things that we need to consider and be looking out for if and when we even get sight of the regulations. So at the end of the day, this clause 11 is really about trying to Caymanian entitlement, so to speak. Yeah, we're going to use that. It is really trying Caymanian entitlement to tying it to continued connection, continued legal and ordinary residence, where that couldn't be questioned, right? But it also raises some questions about fairness as well. And that comes in the case when we're talking about our young people studying abroad and risk of losing their status because of lack of technicality. So also in this clause, it also further amends section 33 of the primary law, remember, of the current law, to provide that the right to be Caymanian be granted by the board may be revoked if the person fails to make that annual declaration required by this proposed new section of 28(6)(a). Okay, so what this additional amendment is, which is new, is that it really allows you then, if someone is being granted the right to be Caymanian by a board, that right can be taken away. I know we explored this before the other day in an earlier episode because we had digressed a little bit. But if they fail to make an annual declaration that is now going to be required under this new section that is going to be section 28(6)(a), Caymanians then who gain their status through the board must at that time then file these annual declarations. Again, there are always risks on everything because and there are pros as well, because it's all about accountability, ensuring that Caymanian status holders remain engaged and compliant with their legal requirements, which pretty much once you got status, that was it. That's the difference, right? Now, what this is saying is that this ensures that these status holders will remain engaged and compliant with the legal requirements until otherwise, right? And it also provides transparency to our government, the government agencies, the enforcement arm of the law, the gatekeepers, because it provides government with updated information about Caymanians who acquire status, right? But consistency is key because this whole thing aligns with other parts of this bill that requires annual declarations as well from certificate holders. So as you can see, one particular clause is broken down with multiple amendments. And this also safeguards against misuse, because what it will actually do is prevent people from actually holding status without maintaining proper records or ties. So we've heard that people have left. There's no way of really checking how long they've been gone for. God forbid if they get sick or they come back annually and they tap into already inundated medical system and reap the benefits, that sort of stuff. Yeah, now they're going to have more checks and balances on these people. Not to say that you don't have a right. We don't want to bar you, but they want to make sure that you're actually truly living here unless you're away, let's say for medical reasons, through service, school, or some sort, okay? Now, some of the concerns, again, just like what I said earlier, Caymanian could lose their rights. They stand that risk of losing their rights simply because of missing paperwork. Yes. And there is going to be also an administrative burden on this section as well, because these annual declarations adds bureaucracy for individuals themselves, the holders, and like I alluded to earlier on, the administrative staff. Now you understand why I said the enforcers are going to have to be adequately funded, staffed up in order to be efficient and implement certain processes on how make them more efficient and faster. Then if you file your application, is your immigration status then in limbo until you get some sort of acknowledgement to see if you meet the requirement? That's going to be interesting. Is it then every year, once you submit this, you almost go in a what if stage? Again, we don't know. That's would require further explanation from the powers that be. Because on one hand, you're granted Caymanian status. The other hand is before your expiry date or anniversary date, you need to file an annual declaration to explain, or let's say update your situation or explain why you're off island. Where do you stand then during the time? Is there going to be just a rubber stamper where it acknowledges that you got your request in on or before the anniversary, so you're not in breach? Is there going to be a 30-day window, a 60-day window, or you have to get it in on or before? All of these things has to be further expounded on. And what is your true immigration status upon filing those declarations or explanation while you're off for whatever reason? What is your immigration status during that time? So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But here we go again. There is an awareness gap because Caymanians may not know they need one. And I'm hoping through this, they realize that this medium, that they realize that they're going to have to be filing these declarations now. But what, again, more questions than answers. What is your immigration status after you file? That's going to be interesting. So at the end of the day, this is the lack of clear regulations explaining what these declarations will or must include. What is the current immigration status? Once you file it, that needs to be conveyed, communicated, because that could be the difference of someone getting a scholarship. That could be a difference of someone getting a mortgage. That could be the difference of someone landing a job as a Caymanian. All of those things need to actually be crystal clear because of these annual declarations. We're not against it. It's just food for thought. It's really food for thought. So I think what is really needed here is on these annual declaration processes. I know we had these town hall meetings. Some public awareness for clear guidelines needs to be out there, including what are the deadlines and what is the required information. And like I said, what's your immigration status after you file that declaration? Are you in limbo? Because it's all subject to you getting some sort of confirmation saying, oh, you check the box. Oh, you continue to have it. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I spoke about grace periods. Do you allow time? God forbid, if it's late filings, is there a penalty? Is there going to be another fee? And then is there going to send annual notice before what happened? Maybe they need to speak to some of the staff in the DMV to see whether or not that's going to be possible, because that's putting it on steroids now. And again, continued education campaigns and informing Caymanians now. We're talking about Caymanians. It's not our non-Caymanians. We're talking about educational Caymanians of you actually getting your status and saying, yay, I'm free of immigration control. Technically, you're not, because each year you still got to file this declaration, and we don't know what are the implications. So I'm not trying to have no propaganda. This is real conversations that should have been had in these town hall meetings if they didn't have them. But we're having them on this space. We're giving you examples of what could be the reality of life, right? So essentially, it's about tying Caymanian status into annual compliance, but it also raised serious concerns about fairness, accessibility, and the actual risk of identity through the paperwork. And it also poses a question: what is my immigration status? Would it be in limbo? How would it impact my job or a loan application or a college application? Yeah. So there's much more to be said there. Now let's go on to clause 12 of section 36 of the Principal Act. And this particular clause, really what they are saying here is to clarify that persons, this is what this clause is saying, listen to me, is to clarify that persons shall pay the relevant prescribed fees in respect of the person, the person's spouse or civil partner, and the person's dependents for the grant, for the approval, and the continued approval of the right to reside permanently in the islands. Okay? Let me break that down in some kind of English for you. This particular clause 12, that is the only amendment cited that is going to impact section 36 at this time. Let me just be clear, but I'm going to dig deeper into section 36, okay? But the only amendment to section 36 right now that they're saying is that it pertains to, I got that one I can put on the screen. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So, you see that? This particular section 36 of this, it refers to permanent residents and extended residence categories, right? What this is saying right now is that the amendment proposed, when someone applies for or maintains their right to reside permanently in the Cayman Islands, they must pay prescribed fees, right? Now, these fees apply not only to the applicant, but also to their spouse or civil partners and any dependents. So what it actually is saying in the amendment for what they're proposing is that permanent residence isn't just about the main applicant, because fees must be paid for the entire family unit tied to the certificate. Now, what is good about this is because it removes any blurred lines, any ambiguity about how fees apply. And it is now clear, very clear, that spouses and dependents are included, right? And to be fair, it also ensures that government receives the type of money, because remember, they're dependent on these revenues to the proportionate to the number of people benefiting from permanent residence. This all goes into whether or not we'll be in a surplus or a deficit. So we don't want anybody being missed out or any fees being overlooked because the law was not clear. So they're spelling it out in this particular section of why and who is included in those fees, right? And where consistency is concerned with this amendment is that it aligns yet again with other immigration provisions where dependents are considered part of the application process. And for the government, again, determining whether or not we'd be in a deficit or a surplus, it helps fund immigration services and definitely public infrastructure impacted by the population growth or whatever else they may actually use these funds for. So it's additional revenue as well that could have been missed, or because there's a flaw in the law or it's not clear enough, that those monies could have actually fallen through the cracks because it wasn't clear in primary legislation, right? Now, the financial burden is what it is, because families now will face high cost and fees. You see some of the fees that are now being there, that are being charged per person. And it's now with making permanent residence less accessible, or in many cases, a deterrent, which if that was the primary aim of it, guess what? Mission accomplished, okay? And it may actually cause some barriers to stability as well, because dependents could be excluded if families just can't afford the fees, and potentially splitting households. Then you hear the big talk about right to family life may come in, and they have a legal right to challenge it and question it. But that's looking at the broader picture. I know there's another side of this that would say, well, who is going to protect us? We're already a minority in our own country. Whoever is giving recommendations to our powers, to our leaders, to our legislators, they need to be given them with the facts, because your MPs are being guided based on recommendations that is given to them by the civil servants, and hoping that it would actually give the results of protection and not leaving doors that are still open, wide open. And when you think you're closing this one, hey, there's another one there. But I'll continue to go into this a little bit more and make it make sense for you, right? There's also a transparency gap, because here we go again. The bill doesn't actually at this stage, because there's no regulation, specifies the actual fee amounts, even though we're hearing what some of them are. If we had the regulations side by side, we would be able to see exactly, well, okay, yes, this is how much it's going to be now. We're only hearing it, okay? So Caymanians don't know how expensive these requirements will be, or how much it would actually add. We're just now at the mercies of the world of what was stated in Finance Committee, and then when they met for the budget sitting, and hopefully now when it's being finally debated on the floor of Parliament, which many cases now may be a little too late to actually try to educate you, which is why I conceded and doing this right now. Now, there's also the possibility of disproportionate impact. I was just being diplomatic by saying possibility. That is already a real thing where Caymanians, there is a disproportionate impact. I can't even try to dilute that. Blind Bartimaeus can see that. It is a fact, because at the end of the day, larger families may be penalized compared to smaller households. But I'm just saying, I made that blanket statement. It's in its entirety. Okay. And we should really be concerned, because at the end of the day, some of these persons, these fees, even though it's going to our bottom line to actually as a part of government revenue, will a lot of people then just actually fall away? And if the enforcement arm isn't following it up, how will that actually pan out to be? And then, of course, out of fairness of the justice system and democracy, you have the right of appeal to explain your circumstances. How are we going to actually deal with that? So whether exemptions or reduced fees will exist for dependents such as children, these fees, you have the right to know how they will be used, and will they directly support Caymanian services or just add to government revenue? These are some of the things that you should actually be considering, right? Now, when I was preparing for this, I've dug a little deeper into this particular clause 12. And it actually, to tie this up, this particular section of what they're recommending is clarifying that permanent residence fees apply straight up now to the entire family. But it also raises important questions about affordability, fairness, and transparency. And that transparency that I'm speaking to for the sake of this is not having sight of the regulations, okay? Now, there's another part of the current law that is in effect, right? Since we were under Section 12. What I have just went into is the only part of the law that right now is being amended of this Section 36. What I have on the screen right now is the law as it currently stands, okay? The law as it currently stands. But this law, at the end of the day, is not addressing one particular elephant in the room. And that particular elephant in the room is Section 36, subsection 4, which is down here. And I will read what it is under Part 6 of this current law. It says permanent residence and extended residence categories. Categories for permanent residence, and this is Section 36, subsection 4. And I quote, a person who is a British Overseas Territory citizen by virtue of connection with the islands, by registration by entitlement under the British Nationality Act 1981, or any act preceding, amending, or replacing that act, shall have the right to remain permanently in the islands and shall cease to have such rights where A, the person ceases to be a British Overseas Territories citizen, B, the person has subsequent the grant of the certificate being ordinarily resident outside the islands continuously for a period of 5 years, or acquires domicile other than a domicile in the islands, meaning whether they've taken up residence in some other country, some other jurisdiction, and not here in the Cayman Islands, unless Cabinet rules otherwise. Subsection C says, the Cabinet is satisfied that the grant of the certificate was obtained by fraud, false representation, or the concealment of any material fact. These are ways in which it can be lost. And D, the person engages in gainful occupation or trade or business without permission of a work permit board, the Business Staffing Board, the Caymanian Status and Permanent Residency Board, or Director of Work. And then E, I needed to go to there. E, the person falls into one of these categories numbered in Section 51, which I will tell you what that Section 51 is, because the Section 51 is just a general clause or ways in which persons can lose permanent residence, okay? But let's zone back in on Section 33, this section, right? It says a person who's a British Overseas Territory by virtue of connections to the islands has the right to remain here and loss if any of the following occurs. First of all, if that person ceases to be a British Overseas Territory citizen, if the person lives outside the islands continuously for 5 years or acquires to say that they live somewhere else, Cabinet is the only one that can decide otherwise. Of course, that's them being made aware and the applicant goes to them. Or should somebody provide, if the cabinet finds that a certificate was obtained by fraud, false representation, or, holding information, that you weren't being transparent. And also, it can be lost if someone was engaging in working or running a business without permission from the relevant boards or WORC. Now, what we see in all of these is, of course, accountability, because it ensures that it is tied to genuine connection and compliance with the law. But also, it protects against, where integrity is concerned, misuse of the BOTC status. Also, with this particular section, as it is in its current state, safeguards Caymanians' opportunities and prevent unauthorized work or business that could bypass Caymanian protections. We've all been hearing the clarion call for that. Now, the flexibility of this advantage is that Cabinet also retains discretion to allow exceptions for extended absences. Okay, we're keeping it on reasons for loss. And of course, there are other means and ways in which Section 51 categorizes and ensures individuals who pose a risk as well can lose permanent rights. So what actually are some of the concern is that at the end of the day, there are some concerns that could be risk of losing one's identity, which we've aired already, unclear domicile rules, because here we go, acquiring domicile elsewhere is still vague and could actually penalize Caymanians who have established temporary residence abroad. And this is why I guess this annual declaration now will actually clear that up, but it's still in its entire state vague. And of course, there could be a power imbalance, because remember now, Cabinet's discretion could lead to inconsistent or even politicized decisions, okay? These are some of the possible disadvantages, right? And then there is also a transparency gap here as well, because the law doesn't clearly define how these losses under Section 51 categories are going to apply in practice, pretty much in its full details, right? So at the end of the day, let's put this into context for the sake of this discussion. And this is why this section 36(4) is quite interesting, because essentially, let's say you have, I don't think anyone saw this one coming, right? A child is born to two foreign nationals, two expats, non-Caymanian. If a child is born here in the Cayman Islands right now, and I know yesterday there was a question that came up. If a child is born in the Cayman Islands and has resided here for 10 years, please follow me. Do you know? Let me repeat it. If a child was born here to two non-Caymanian nationals, remember, rollover in government just started, right? Even though it was being asked for 15 years. We've just now started it. It's now being introduced. Think about where I'm going with this. Children born in Cayman of two non-Caymanian parents, that child is included, let's say, on a government contract, because we know rollover was at 7 years. We know now it's been 9, unless you get PR. So let's leave this for all of those that are on contracts for the sake of this conversation and the impact of a wide open door that's still not addressed right here under this section 4. Here's the door that's open. Let me break it down. The child born here, contracted government workers, and the child included as a dependent for 10 years. That child being born here and residing here legally for 10 years becomes entitled to Caymanian status or citizenship. Did you hear what I just said? Yes, that child, and you cannot fight it down because of the child's very own birth in the Cayman Islands as a British overseas territory jurisdiction. Once that child is born here and has resided here for 10 years, that child is entitled to Caymanian status and citizenship. This, my friends, entitlement is rooted in the principle that long-term residents from birth, it didn't say whether or not your parents had to be Caymanian. It just says your birth establishes a permanent and undeniable connection to the Cayman Islands. This cannot be refuted. Now, the parents, the non-Caymanian civil servants who may fall or find themselves here, by contrast, a non-Caymanian parent, even if they're legally resident and working here for 10 years or more, does not automatically gain Caymanian status. Are you following me? But they have a child. Their parents, their right to remain is governed by, of course, immigration law, and in this case, contracts, or even permanent residence certificate, not by birth or descent, okay? This particular section makes it clear that the right to remain permanently here in the Cayman Islands is tied to being a British overseas territory citizen with Cayman connection. Now, it can be lost if the person ceases to be a BOTC, if they reside outside Cayman for 5 years, or you can prove that, there was some fraudulent works, but we're talking about a 10-year-old kid, you understand? Or someone who was born here and is not yet 18, but they were born here to two non-Caymanian parents, and they have been legal and ordinary resident here for 10 years, okay? Now, at the end of the day, you may ask, well, why is this child entitled to it? Because their parents weren't Caymanians. They fall into this category. This child's entitlement is because this particular law recognizes that a child born and raised in Cayman for 10 years has direct, irrefutable connection to the islands. And the reason why that is like that is because this is about protecting. It was put in here on a good pretense about protecting Caymanian identity and ensuring that our children who grew up here are not left stateless or excluded. Now you must say, make it make sense. But let's keep on for the purpose of this discussion. But the parents' positions is different because their connection is totally different. Why? Because they weren't born here. They may have the legal and ordinarily resident requirement, choose not to apply for PR because prior to rollover being introduced to the civil servant, once you got a contract renewed, you could stay here until the cows came home, until you decide to leave. But where the parents are concerned, that's totally different. And it's based on legal residence and employment where the parents are concerned, not birth or descent. So what we're seeing cited here in this particular section is that Cayman law deliberately separates the entitlement of children from the rights of their parents to prevent automatic transmission of Caymanian status through residency alone. And what this actually do, where the parents are concerned, is that this prevents citizenship by, I'm going to use it, osmosis. Osmosis as in where the parents could gain Caymanian status simply by having a child here. I bet you I didn't see that one coming. And it also ensures, still on the parent's position, it ensures that Caymanian status remains tied to the birth, descent of formal grant issuance, and not just long-term residence. But here are the implications. I hope you guys are listening to what I'm saying. The implications for the child is that, oh yeah, they're good. They are secured after 10 years of residence, and they're entitled to apply for status on the grounds of entitlement on the BOTC. But where the parent is concerned, they must go through still the PR process, the RERC, but guess what? The parents now have a Cayman connection by way of their own child. Yeah, they could claim Caymanian connection by their own child. So they would have to apply for PR. They would have to meet the financial criteria, character, and of course, they would have automatically met their residency requirement. But for Caymanians, this distinction protects Caymanian opportunities. Yes, Jim, I said it. But remember now, this is not a section that is being amended. You never heard diddly squat about it. That door is wide open. And I'm going to go into some more explanation. Again, unintended consequences. The key takeaways that we should be taking about here is that in reality, okay, it is what it is. This section of the law, with all good intent, balanced family realities with Caymanian protections, okay? And that children who are born and raised in Cayman for 10 years, and this is how profound this particular section is, unless it's addressed. Children born and raised here for 10 years are irrefutably Caymanian. I don't care whether the parents came from Timbuktu. If that kid was born here and legally resided here for 10 years, ain't nothing you can do about it. And parents, even if legally resident for the same period, they, of course, apply and qualify through the immigration process. They don't. The parents wouldn't gain status automatically. But should an applicant find themselves in this situation with a child, because remember, government didn't have term limits. And if a child has been legal and ordinarily resident, let's say as a work permit holder, then they joined the civil service, and the child was born here when they were on a work permit, and you can tie it on, they were included as a dependent on the government contract, and the child is 10, 11, 12, and have been here all that time, that child is Caymanian. Let me tell you what this means, Caymanians. This bill, and this is only one section that I pulled out of the current law, subject to change without notice, because I don't know if this may be one of those changes of the 15 that was stated. I don't know. But in me preparing for this, I have to look at the current law as it stands, look at what is being proposed, and then come up with interpretation. And many times when you're reading the current law, your eyes glance down and you put it into different things. We have heard you all say this bill, even though it's tightening the reins, trying to deal with sham marriages and all that sort of stuff, you got a door that I just cited there that is wide open. We said that the bill is moving quickly. And while some of the sections are being tightened, yes, to protect Caymanian opportunities, and others like this particular section, they remain untouched. Yet they carry life-changing consequences. What we really need is to know the stats of how much persons who are possibly in this situation that have children here who have been legal and ordinarily resident for 10 years, because those kids, my friends, are your new Caymanians. And you cannot even do anything about it. The people, my leaders, are asking for more time because these laws just doesn't regulate paperwork. They are defining our identity. And we understand the importance of family and stability and the future of Cayman. We understand that even losing status after 5 years abroad or through, let's say, technicalities like misdeclaration is not a small matter. But Caymanians deserve, and they're asking, they're hungry for clarity, more consultation, and fairness before, God forbid, this goes into effect. But what I'm saying here today, it's nothing about going into effect here. This particular section of the law was not even addressed. It's remaining as is, unless they show us that they're going to deal with it. Yeah. This, my friends and leaders, my former colleagues, isn't resistance. It's responsible citizenship. And every Caymanian is saying, now that certain things are being aired, give us some more time to understand. Give us some more time to debate. Give us some more time to really protect our future. Because what we're seeing now is risking eroding trust. And I think with this declaration, there are more questions than answers. People feel that they're not being listened to. And once you're being listened to, that builds confidence. And really, that is what our Caymanians really need now most of all, because we already realize we're diluted, we're outnumbered, but for God's sake, this door is wide open. Yeah, this isn't one of the clauses that is being tightened up in the current round of amendments, guys. This remains in force. So if you're Caymanian, if your voters are asking for more time because multiple reasons, maybe the bill is just complex. It has so many moving parts that directly impacts families and jobs and identity. Some provisions, like we've put it out here, could be good. Yeah, because some used to be 7 years. Now they're drawn back to 5 years. These are high stakes and good for you guys for some of them. But this particular section here is not even mentioned. This piece of reform feels fast, and I know we have to start somewhere. But what we've also found, and based on feedback received, it leaves very little room for quality public consultation and education. It's one thing that you want to check the box and say, this is what we did, this is what we did. This door is wide open. And every Caymanian right now is feeling concerned. But they're also waking up and they're vigilant. Every Caymanian has the right to question why provisions weren't part of this, even if they were aware. Because if you had put the two laws, the recommendation and the current law in its current form and regulation, all side by side, it would be there for people to see. But at the end of the day, Caymanians should feel curious. They should feel protected and justified in asking for some more time. And for emphasis, this is not putting up resistance. Nobody ain't got no bad vibes. This is just real talk, because that section was not touched, is not touched. It didn't come up. It hasn't mentioned. It's going to remain there. A lot of you probably realize now that your children Caymanians. And even if they are dependents on your permanent residency, and your children have been here, born here, and here for 10 years, they're more Caymanian than you. Because you probably waiting for 15 years of legal tenure. You're waiting for the additional 3 years, 2 years, whatever. But you're like, hold up a minute. How old is little Jacob? How old is Bethany? Oh, they're 12, but they only know the Cayman Islands as their home. They were always dependent on my work permit. And remember, when you got into government, they were also included on your contract. Oh my God, we have 2 Caymanian children. It's irrefutable. Your kids are Caymanians. Go and apply for your application tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, in any democracy, members of our parliament and senior civil servants depends on trusted staff to provide factual, balanced advice. And that advice is critical, because here we're saying, yes, we're finally getting it. But you got an opening hole that is pretty much like slitting your jugular. And you know what's going to be staggering? When you hear how much of those kids are Caymanian. Your MPs alone do not know it all. They are there, guided by the recommendations and whatever legal counsel is given to them. You all were given your marching orders, and people, the Caymanians, asked for immigration reform. But that, my dear friends, is a gaping hole. And the more exemptions that we give to certain sectors in the civil service is definitely another door that is wide open. For 15 years, for years, let's not put a number, Caymanians have had the discussions and have asked for a rollover in the civil service. To be exact, yes, I said it. 15 years. And now, at least it's becoming a reality in some form. But there is a concern. Those same exemptions that leaves doors and pathways wide open is one I just shared with you today. And that, my friends, has a lot of Caymanians left wondering, are we truly closing the gaps? Or are we handed a 6 for a 9? Or a half-baked cake? Or, in all sincerity, they didn't see it. We're human beings. We're human beings. It is important that you read. As an elected member of parliament, as a minister, you have the right to question. You have the right to say, slow it down. What about this? Go and do your own research. You may not be liked, but the people put you there. And if it doesn't appear as though you're doing what's right in the best interest of the people, oh yeah, it will be designed and you will not be returned. One mistake they made, which is plus for you guys, I didn't get returned. But look at what I'm doing now. I questioned, I researched, and I slowed things down when I felt it was need to be, because it wasn't in the best interest of the Cayman Islands as a whole and its people. I did. Didn't get me any friends, but look at where I am today. Even though, my friends, progress is being made, those exemptions will have implications, like exactly what I'm pointing out here to you. And it means that the system is not watertight. I'm just being as blunt as I can and as respectful as I can. And when you look at the statistics, if we finally get those numbers, the gate is wide open, guys. And there are many individuals here that are already Caymanian by right, while their non-Caymanian parents remain outside that entitlement. But if you have a pending application for permanent residence right now, and pretty much you're saying at the end of the day, I don't have a Cayman connection, do the math with your child. Do the math with your child. Because at the end of the day, you could actually have a Cayman connection. And you don't even realize it if you fall into this. This is not about prejudice, guys. It's not about politics either. It's about fairness, it's about transparency, and it's about ensuring that immigration reform is explained clearly so that Caymanians can trust the system is working in their interest. And am I back now? And within the law. So at the end of the day, this is what that is. And I can assure you that I would love to get your feedback on this. Did I lose Facebook? Am I losing? Oh God, what did I do? Yeah. At the end of the day, let me see if I can bring back this live stream, guys. I think something is going on. Well, I guess the conversation hot today. Let's see what we can do here. Let me see if I can bring this back online for you. Yep, my numbers dropped because we're having some technical difficulties in the background. So let's see. Let's see. Edit. Let me come out and remove. Let me add myself back. Let's go. Let's see. I'm adding myself back, guys. So for those of you, just hold back. Just hold up for me. Yes, I'm back. Yep, I should be good now. And there's another one that I need to edit here. Let's see here. Let's add it back. Nope. Let's go here. Okay, I should be back up now, right? I'm back. Just give me a thumbs up if I'm back. Yeah. I guess the topic was that hot this evening. Connie, I left your laughing thing on the screen because I needed to know, because I want to try and cover some of these. I'm hoping that my numbers are coming back. Sorry about that. I don't know. It happens. It happens. So yeah, let me see. I'm going to try to go through as much of these as I can, and I'll use mile marker Connie Lynn Palmer with her laughies as my mile marker. Real Michelle says, you know you are hitting hard when you're get unexplained technical difficulties. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Michelle. You picked it up. People need to understand the end goal of immigration. We know what that is. Yeah, numbers are coming back, guys. Numbers are coming back. Yeah, real Michelle, girl. So I guess somebody wants to silence me, but this is real, guys. This door is wide open. This door is wide open. I see you guys are coming back. 6:30, we got half hour left. So I'm hoping that people can see me still. Yeah, you're coming back. Yeah. Wilbert says the same thing Trump is proposing in the US, but when Trump does it, people get angry. Well, Cayman is asking for reform, and I feel that if we're making a step in certain directions, that at the end of the day, it should be honored, should be transparent. And this was found out because I told you all that I didn't want to do this because I felt I would be advising or giving interpretation without regulations blind. And it's worked out that way. But what it did is that it forced me then to brush back up on line by line per law. That's what it did. And you see what I'm unearthing right now is a door that is still wide open. Yeah. Wilbert. Oh, you repeated it. Same thing Trump is proposing in the USA. When Trump does it, people get angry and start saying that he is deporting Americans. When another country does it, people are okay with it. Same exact thing Trump is doing. Angel. Only thing here is like ice. That's going, only thing here isn't like ice. That's going around and scraping up any person that don't look him. Yeah, but that could be hard to do now, Angel, because you'd be surprised. Caymanians have Malaysian eyes. I have Malaysian friends, and their kids were born here. They are what you would say Caymanian. And if you look at them, they are Malaysian as can be, but they don't know any other home. Damien, I understand that rules and laws must be adhered to, but who agrees to what these gatekeepers are doing? Who gives them the green light for these changes? Shouldn't the citizen have a say via Damien? That's why they did the town hall meetings. But if you didn't ask it, they didn't dish it up. I could have actually do this entire review of what is being presented and never highlighted that, because why? That isn't a section that is being changed. I'm only highlighting for explanation purposes what amendments or additions is being made and particular sections that it actually falls under is why that is obvious. And then it said, but if you're saying you're doing immigration reform, you're trying to close the door, why isn't this addressed? Why didn't anything being said? It's just there. And what are the true numbers? I tell you, when I go quiet, when you see me say I don't want to deal with a topic, it's because I'm doing my research. It's because I'm digging. Yeah. Real Michelle. Hey, Sabrina and CMR fam. Oh, I'm grateful to be here with you all today. Hear the thoughts. Oh, yes. Good to have you as usual. Sherry. In 2 seconds, that will change once government official family members starts to lose their status. The world is big and open. Why bound people for a few squares of land for life? We all should be free to be nomads. In the Bible age, people move away for many reasons, and it was encouraged, and some were also guided to go back to their origin. Hey, Miss Rose, how are you doing, my sweet? Real Michelle says, is that not the case around the world? Where a little human is born is their birthplace and should rightly be entitled to citizenship of that place. I feel sorry for those babies growing up. Yes, but here, because we are not an independent jurisdiction, which is why if these kids are born in a British Overseas Territories jurisdiction, Cayman Islands, and meet the legal requirements of 10 years, legal requirement, they're kids, they're born here. They ain't gonna take no job away from anybody between 0 to age 10 of legal requirements. And before term limits were put in, remember, the only way that you could be here beyond that, and that's if you applied for PR, was granted it, or if you didn't apply for PR, you had to be on a contract, a government contract. So this particular section is putting a spotlight on every civil servant right now that's non-Caymanian, who either left private sector and went into government, had a child when they were outside on a work permit. Remember, that child's clock is still ticking. Their date of birth doesn't change when they actually get hired, their parents get hired in government. Their immigration clock keeps ticking. And if they had a child when they were on work permit and they got a job in government that was free of rollover, and that child is 10 years old, that child is Caymanian. That is what I'm talking about. But any other person being born here in the Cayman Islands, just saved by the fact that we're a British Overseas Territories jurisdiction, Michelle, they wouldn't be deemed Caymanian just by being born here after 1977, 27th of March, 1977. What is the Cayman culture? Are you protecting? What is the Cayman culture? Quote unquote, are you protecting by raising children with a severe lack of inclusion and identity? Could you imagine being 10 years old, only knowing Cayman and hearing you don't belong? Well, in this case, my love, 10-year-old being born here, they're Caymanian. They're Caymanian. As long as they were legal and ordinarily resident on their parents' papers, they are legal and ordinarily resident. Dean, good evening. So there are new law or something that prohibits or stop new Caymanians from having children here? No. It doesn't, no law for that. That would go against human rights. No, Dean. You got to pay more for dependents. That dependent fee to be included on work permits and on PR has increased. Hey, Denver, how you doing? So holding a British passport for 30 years, if I leave Cayman and go to live in the UK for 5 years, I will lose my Caymanian identity. Denver, subject to change without knowing what those amendments are. And with the transition or the transitionary clause of this new law, Denver, you wouldn't fall under this section. This, my friend, Denver, would only apply once this law goes into effect based on how it's presented. The second this law goes into effect, all of those things would apply. So anyone who is good right now, granted status already, by interpretation, not knowing what the 15 changes are, hence things are subject to change, you wouldn't be one of those that fall into this category. Now, here we go again, Denver. If we had sight of the regulations, I would have been able to give you a direct answer. But the transitionary clause that was built into this, it clearly states, again, save with the exception that one of the 15 rules stated by the Honorable Minister doesn't change because we don't know what they are, okay? Are your immigration cases published? I don't think so. No, the Immigration Appeals Tribunal, anything that goes to judicial review, I guess they end up on a cause case. Not that I'm aware of, Michelle, but it's not like it's public. And some of these Immigration Appeals Tribunal as well, they're not public. Like, you know, certain councils and boards, they have their board meetings that are actually being televised, recorded. In these cases, no. Smooth cuz, but the child has no Caymanian connection. Oh, yes, they do. How can the parents claim on the child? The child would be a BOTC. Caymanian is Caymanian. So the parents then would, they couldn't deny that the child isn't Caymanian through the British overseas, and they would have met the legal requirement, 18. Now, again, I'm stand to be corrected. So to say that the kid wouldn't be able to pass it on because they're a British overseas territory, they would have the right to remain and reside, but they're entitled by entitlement. Once they file that entitlement application and they meet that requirement, they're Caymanian. So it's one and same mood cruise. Jim, there's going to be a whole lot more baby. Oh, Jesus. Well, how could it be? Yeah, Jim, if they don't address this law anytime soon, they can go ahead and start making babies now. They just got to hope that the law isn't changed for 10 years. Because remember now, Jimbo, until I cited this just now, I don't think anyone realized that that is in the law. Because it's not big. It's not. Where do you go and hear Cayman immigration conversations being happening in a public forum like this? Where do you hear immigration law being spoken about in Cayman like this? There's nowhere that breaks it down like this, that actually takes the time line by line and break it down. Nowhere. Yeah. So there's going to be a whole lot of baby making and more babies being born here by parents from other countries. 10 years later, they will be bringing their entire families who are applying for residency in Caymanian status, more so than currently. Well, if they didn't know, as in the lawmakers, policymakers, that these were the unintended consequences, they know this evening. And anybody right now probably doing the math for their children, they're probably going to be marching down to WORC with the birth certificate and proof of legal not ordinary residence to their children and applying for this, or they would seek a reputable immigration consultant to help them navigate this irrefutable process. That's what I'll say there. Real Michelle say, when was the last census? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was in 2015. They had census during lockdown. I can remember there was doing a census during the lockdown. 2020. No, man, they had one since COVID. We were still in a bubble and we had census workers going out, even though it had to be extended because of some people were in quarantine and all that sort of stuff. We had a census during the pandemic. We were in a bubble, real Michelle, and that's why it could have actually go on. But it was somewhere around that time. Jimbo, Caymanians will be snuffed out of their own country already going in that direction. Well, I hope that after informing you of what is in the law that is not in the white paper to be amended, that section of the law remains still valid. And tomorrow you can go and make an application if your child actually falls in that area. Or if this child is an adult here now, let's say, has always been here and is now finding themselves about to apply for PR. I don't know. I'm just trying to work scenarios, or maybe find themselves on a government contract themselves. Hey, these kids could be Caymanians. They just need to apply for the application. Or God forbid, let's say these kids are now just 18 and they're only know Cayman as their home and they want to actually work and need a work permit. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, these kids could be entitled to a Cayman passport. Yeah, the travel document. So, Michelle, the amount of hoodwinking and lack of public input in such law is alarming. Well, again, unintended consequences, people have been asking, but the more the masses stay quiet, this is what happens. And the few of us that are willing to be public speakers and highlight certain things, remember, my task was, Sabrina, we think you should present the amendments, the white paper, on your show. Let's spark discussion. Let's make sure that we can encourage participation. I'm delivering. But in so delivering, I have every right to compare what the current law says and what it's being amended to. And in this case, I just happened to go into a particular section and see where that was not addressed at all. Was never addressed. Angel. Wilbert Zamara Hudson, exactly. Wilbert. Damian Henry, they really don't need public opinion on certain things. I'm assuming this is one. Well, I gotta be honest with you, it would not have happened because it's not one of the amendments. No, this is the most public opinion that you'll have, and it's not even a part of the amendment. Now, whether that's going to be one of the committee stage amendments, I don't know. Maybe they may have to do some serious public consultation, or maybe guess what? They may actually delay it a little bit. I don't know. Egos may prevail and they still shove it down your throats, and this floodgate will remain open. Who to tell? I guess we will know on the 10th. Mood Cruise. A child with no connection to their heritage is left out. Why? The parent don't have no connection. Either the child will not know their heritage or will not be able to relate. A child with no connection to our heritage is left out. Why? The parent don't have no connection. Either the child will not know their heritage. Yeah, well, many times these kids are confused, but I tell you what, I've seen a lot of kids who were born here, and for whatever reasons, their parents decide to go back to their country of origin, whatever, and some way, somehow, these kids still, as adults, they frequently visit and they come back and they set up home here. Now, what's going to happen in this particular case is that until now that this was made public knowledge, if their tenure is questioned, they may miss this opportunity. If they have relocated because of the failure of just knowing that this actually exists, then those kids may have already lost. But again, like I said, anything can be challenged if you get the right representation. Some parents don't want their children to mix. I agree, and that's going to be their loss, which is why I'm hoping back in the day when schools allowed all persons, but we have a capacity issue. Some of these permanent residents now come with a condition of private school attendance, and even with work permits or contracts must attend private schools. The mixing of our kids is what actually made Cayman unique. And a lot of these kids, I still have schoolmates that I'm a class of 1990, and I have classmates that came here whose parents were from a different country. And we keep in contact with each other via social media channels and that sort of stuff. It's like they never left, even though some of them have gone back home or have just found themselves somewhere else. But it's amazing. There was no divide. There was no divide when it came to those days in school. Of course, our population was much less then, so it was easier to mix. But now what we're seeing, I do get it. And that actual segregation is not what we need here. And that just is a breeding room for all sorts of tensions. And yeah, it's divisiveness. And how certain things now are being enforced, it's going to cause a lot more of that if we don't start having the real talks. Be careful not to scare away skilled people who help build and grow your country's wealth. Measure with an eagle eye open for corruption. Your country is hiding crooks. Some relate to me, sadly. Oh, wow. Some related to me, sadly. Real Michelle. Lenny Verhoeven. What about born Caymanian children and status based on descent? 16-year generation. And acknowledged with the right to continue after the age of 18. Does the mother still have to give up RERC and apply for status, essentially backtracking? No, there wouldn't be any backtracking from what I'm understanding. No, we go forward. It wouldn't be any from what I'm understanding. No, that would be a no. But thanks for the context. Does the mother still have to give up RERC and apply for status, essentially backtracking? What about born Caymanian children and status based on descent? Status based on descent is where one parent or grandparent was born in the islands and they were acknowledged with the right to continue after age of 18. So that's solidified. That's good. So the status was continued. No, No, not no. Yeah. Thank you for that. There we go. People need to understand, okay. Connie, you were shocked by something that I said. What about Caymanian children and status based of descent? Okay, that's the same one. Okay. Wilbert, at borders, at Wilbert. Oh, this is a message for Wilbert. Borders are just as ideas we've all subscribed to, like money. It's not real. One day we will realize we can't live in water and money can't be eaten. Some will eat it though. Oh God. Miss Bodily, how you doing? Can't save the world. Real Michelle. Yeah. Okay, you were just responding to the real Michelle. Hey, Darlene, how you doing, my love? Is the 5-year gap cumulative or a total of 5 years over? I think that's a cumulative. That's a cumulative. And this is why certain things would have to be actually looked upon by the gatekeepers. That's the operational arm of government. So let me tell you something. They're going to need a dedicated department. I can see a capital project where the operational arm of government will actually create some new department. And I can see that because with what I've unearthed, what is actually going to be here to make this immigration reform, if it goes through as is, to be effective, without enforcement, we're wasting our time. With enforcement, everyone should be happy, to be honest. Julia, I just got my children rights to be right to be Caymanian a couple months ago. Are there any changes to this now? No. Anything that was granted before the law is in a oh, Julia, how you doing? Anything that was granted before this recommendation becomes the transition clause, meaning going in, transitioning from one law to the next, you're automatically going to be kept under the old system. So no. Also, what they say can cause Caymanian status holders to have their status revoked. That's a whole slew of stuff. If you provided false information, if you're leaving under these clauses are there right now, to be honest. If you become destitute, if you, the clause. There's a whole slew of them. Maybe I'll have to, you know what? I'm going to have to go back and do a lost clause episode just for the sake of this, because I know it's a lot of you that got you going this evening with that. So Julia, I may actually have to do maybe a half hour on that just to go through the lost causes of PR and the lost causes for status for the sake of this. But there's also some more information as well that I wanted to share with you that I can snip the actual law that shows how things are lost, put it on the screen so that you can follow along with me. And that's the power of interaction. But I think just the law's cause that you're actually questioning about is quite lengthy. And I only got a few more minutes. So let's aim to do that at another episode. It's nowhere to be exposed, not even your case. That's interesting. It's not. Dean, if there will never be laws prohibiting non-Caymanians from having Cayman as breeding ground. Oh, having Cayman as a breeding ground. Then I agree we will never get any better. This isn't an open door. It's a, well, darling Dean, it's there. It's there. It's still open. I'm sorry. My question has been explained already. Oh, okay. I know I'm a little bit late. I know I'm a little late with doing this because I had to get some of this information out. Otherwise, we would be here until the new year, literally. Tartarian. These decisions are made by mature adults. Having a child for that reason is fraud to the system and is irresponsible. And that child will always be sidelined in the community, especially in sports, etc. But I'll tell you what, the breed of children that I'm seeing right now, they're defending their territory. Me and you, based on what age group we fall in, are a different breed from what is coming up right now. And I could tell you what I'm seeing these young adults are doing, they're standing up and defending their turf. So if you think that sideline in sports, for example, is going to continue, think again. because it's a new breed is coming. We're at a crossroads right now in this jurisdiction, which is why I take the time to do what I'm doing, Tartarian. And I telling you this, even if it's still continuing, it's not going to be forever. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Yeah, I know it's happening. I seen it even when I was there, but it's not going to continue. I'm telling you because they're standing up and they're defending their turf. Keith, please, people, do not marry Caymanians if you do not truly love us, because we are special people in the eyes of God. We special, all right, our heart too big. Oops, Keith, not to take away from what you were actually saying. I'm class of 1992, end of an era. Oh, really? Yep. Lenny, but I've applied for BOTC and got denied. Told I had to apply for status. BOTC. I would need to see you need to find yourself a good immigration representative and just search around. Search around. They are out there and they know the law. I think, Lenny, you're entitled to having that revisited by someone who is versed in immigration law. Okay. Bonnie, who says, who Cayman can totally change the world. Chelsea, you're relaxing music. Hi, just tuning in. Well, you late. You better scroll back because we are counting it down, because here on cmrtv.com, there are other shows that are lined up. I don't know what's coming on after my show, but you know what? We still didn't finish, We got clause 13 that amends section 37 of the law. Anna must be free to me after I delivered that bombshell today. And 37 of the law. But you got 1 minute. You are late. You are late. Did I miss a call? You are late. You got 1 minute. You're gonna have to call back tomorrow because I gotta end at 7. Hello. Oh, I guess he heard it. You call back tomorrow because we're going to have to pick this up tomorrow, because clause 37 of the Principal Act, for you guys who want to know what is Sabrina talking about, is persons legal and ordinarily resident in the island for at least 8 years. Okay, call me back tomorrow. That we have to go through, and that's a huge piece. I'm going to simplify that for you. And also, but remember, these are clauses that are being amended, right? So if there are clauses that I find in the law that are not touched, for the sake of what is going to be debate on the floor of Parliament, is why I'm covering these sections. But that particular section, I felt the need to pretty much dedicate 3/4 of the show on that particular section, because if we're saying we're closing the gates, if we say we're tightening the reins, that floodgate remains open. And I feel that whether they didn't know or they just don't know how to deal with it, if you're being transparent, that's one that I just unearthed. Yes. You can stay like, not today. Onto something else. I want you to digest everything that I said today. Think about what questions and concerns are born about what was actually communicated or conveyed here today. Come back tomorrow, be ready, and let's dissect this, because I know I will probably have some persons weighing in who join us very late and to do this. It's Wind Down Friday, but again, I have committed to bringing this to you. I will continue with this tomorrow. Okay? So please be safe on the road. I will make sure that the housekeeping is at a minimal tomorrow so we can just go straight into it. But I don't want to not celebrate our people. I don't want to not tell you what's going on. I like to respect and I like consistency. So again, please do have a good evening. It has been a pleasure. Honestly, it has been a pleasure bringing you this episode of Sabrina Speaks on this Thursday, the eve of Friday. Until tomorrow. Mwah! Love you guys lots. Be safe. God bless. See you tomorrow. That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.